Welcome to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. And let me tell you, it's your business to be concerned about what's happening in the political integrity, the business integrity, and the media integrity department. If there's any area where you think that someone's going to be at least trying to do their best to give honest information, you would think it'd be someone of a major network anchor. But clearly that wasn't the case recently with Brian Williams, who for over a decade has been lying about an incident that never took place. I, by the way, wrote a column about it, which is over in the media section of Huffington Post today. It's also at usdatareview.com. But I also wanted to get insights on a true business leader, someone who helps businesses not only in terms of efficacy and efficiency, but integrity and ethics, which is Tom Taormina, and he's with Apollo Business Solutions, and he's a regular contributor on The Price of Business. I asked him to chime in. How are you, sir?
Top of the morning, Kevin. I'm great. How are you?
Good, thank you. What did you think about how this is all unfolded? Pretty bizarre.
Just another chapter, isn't it? It's just incredible. We've known forever that the mainstream media has had a liberal bias, but it's interesting to find out that they don't even have any personal integrity.
Nope, not at all, not at all. So what was your immediate thought that came to mind when you heard about this unfolding?
Well, it just reinforced what's been going on in the business world for the last decade or two. When he chose to launch that path of making up stories to build his creds, it's exactly what I find in the business world on almost a daily basis, especially in my work as an expert witness in products liability. There is no integrity among a number of business leaders. They choose a path of rape, pillage, and burn, and at the end of the day, their scenario is to sell the company before someone catches on. And isn't that what we're seeing here again? I got to get my ratings up. The book is everything. Yeah,
that's exactly right. And in fact, I think in spite of the negative slack, I actually think NBC is going to see this as a ratings bonanza. Just out of morbid curiosity, people are going to show up to watch Lester Holt for a while, and just say, oh, wow, I wonder what's going on with Brian. I wonder what Brian feels like watching Lester Holt. And, and frankly, Lester Holt is probably, I hate to say it, I love Brian Williams as an anchor. He's articulate. He's charismatic. He is self-deprecating. I like him as a host. As an anchor. But frankly, Lester Holt's probably the second best one out there of the current lot that's out there that changes constantly. It's like disposable anchors. I remember where anchors were on forever. But I am pressed. David Muir, I guess, is on ABC. I have no idea who's doing it on CBS, and he's been there for like a year and a half. But it's very odd to watch. The whole thing is very strange.
Well, my cousin is the lead writer for CBS Evening News, so I'm kind of hoping that standard is pretty high. But again, why not just embellish stories just for ratings? It's part of our new morality. There's no compelling reason for us to be honest with one another. It's just much easier to live I call it living the Vita vicarious, where people live through each other instead of their own accomplishments.
Wow, that's well put. Well put. And I'll give this much to CBS. Dan Rather was fired rather quickly, and frankly, I don't think Dan Rather's actions were as heinous as what Brian Williams has done. Brian Williams is literally it's almost like a mental health issue when someone inserts himself in a situation like this. It's like, what kind of delusions are they living under? At least it was a hit job on the part of Dan Rather that he didn't put himself in there as an eyewitness to. It's really bizarre.
You're hearing yourself, though, you're defining degrees of immorality. I didn't think that was something we needed to do in this country until fairly recently.
Yeah.
Every day we see the Constitution being shredded in D.C., and why not all of us? Why don't we just make up stories instead of reporting the news? I was one of the victims of Fox News being taken off Dish Network, and I got to surf the channels for a couple of weeks, and I was absolutely appalled at the level of journalism on the other cable networks. They were entertainers. They weren't news people.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I would say both networks mishandled it, but I would say one seems to handle their heinous act better than the other. What's going on with Brian Williams? Honestly, I think Brian Williams is going to be back in the anchor chair, and that to me is just shocking.
Exactly. What are the degrees of morality? Bill Clinton redefined sex for all of us.
Yeah.
And why are we redefining morality? Why are we trying to interpret the Constitution in a manner different than the founders intended it to be? It's not a generational issue. It's a moral issue.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree with that. And let's talk a little bit about what kind of things the folks over there at NBC could have done to prevent such a horrible thing.
Well, I have no clue as to what goes on in a news prep meeting other than what you see on the media, but the fundamentals of journalism are to report the news, not to make it. The fundamentals of journalism are to give the listener or the viewer an objective snapshot of what's going on. I think what we could do in the future is to stop having the news people bias their reports and get back to fundamental journalism. It's just let's hear it. I hate to keep going back to Fox, but to me, they're kind of the benchmark of journalism that is fair and balanced, using their terminology. But it really is. You seldom see one pundit on there from one party. It's always one pundit from each of the parties. So if we could look at this quote unquote fair and balanced across the spectrum, maybe it would precipitate more veracity in their reporting.
Mm-hmm. And in retrospect, hindsight is always, 20/20. But immediately upon hearing this, because let's face it, I think the part I find even more disturbing is that they've known about the story and it's literally evolved. If you look at my articles at Huffington Post and U.S. Daily Review, you'll see how it evolved over time. Here just a few weeks ago in December, they gave him a raise and another 5-year extension, even though they've heard about this story now for how long? The guy makes $10 million a year, yet they couldn't vet a story like that. What does it say about a network?
Well, once again, if you're listening to what you just quoted, you're helping them redefine morality, and I don't think that's any of our jobs. Of course, your conscience drives you, but when you give up personal integrity, you can do just about anything. So I can almost picture these meetings where we're looking to sweep it under the table and do damage control because we don't want to lose our prize boy there with his wonderful public image. We'll just put some lipstick on the pig and keep going.
Interesting. Well, I appreciate it very much, Tom. New things happening with the Apollo Group. Also, give us your website as we wrap it up.
Okay, it's OResonance, ORESONANCE. It's short for organizationalresonance.com. Take a look, give us a call. We'd be happy to discuss this and many, many other subjects with your listeners.
Yeah, the organization's really involved in changing the way businesses operate, really restoring what works and shunning things that don't work. And thanks, Tom, for sharing your thoughts.
Well, as I tell my clients, I do both consulting and expert witness work. My expert witness fees are 4 times my consulting fees. Let me know which side of the aisle you want to see me on.
There you go. Thanks so much.
Okay, bud.
You bet. Have a great day. When we come back, much more for you. Do want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at usdatareview.com. And you're listening to The Price of Business.